2555 in the future. A terrifying nuclear radiation creates a thunderstorm cloud. Every 70 years, it completes a cycle around Earth. Wherever this cloud passes, half of the population will die instantly. The other half may survive, but they live in suffering, as they are contaminated by lethal radiation and turn into zombies. Today, I will introduce you to the sci-fi film, The Visitor from the Future, released in 2023. A nuclear power plant that will destroy the world is about to explode. In a critical situation, two scientists go back in time, trying to restart the system to prevent the disaster. But the buttons in front of them confuse them. The green button and the yellow button. Which one is the restart button? Just as the two argue, a flash of lightning appears, and a person suddenly appears in the hallway. It turns out Raph is a time traveler from the future, and his purpose here is to stop the disaster. He warns the two that the green button will destroy the place. To convince the scientists, he mentions the manual. But the problem is, it's all in Chinese. Before they know it, Raph has brought back an old Chinese man. The worrying thing is that the old man can't read traditional Chinese. With time running out, Raph disappears again. This time, he returns after 6 months of intensive Chinese lessons. He confirms with the nuclear power plant engineer that the yellow button is the restart button. Just as the scientists are about to press it, time cops suddenly appear. Raph sees this and immediately disappears. His sudden disappearance leaves the scientists confused. The scientists are about to press the button when the time cops quickly stop them. They say Raph is a fraud, and the green button is the right one. But the cops ask them to wait, to press the button after they leave. After some hesitation, the scientists press the green button. Just after celebrating, the nuclear power plant explodes violently. The destruction of the world has officially entered the countdown phase. The time travels back before the nuclear power plant was built. Councillor Gilbert approved the nuclear power project. At the press conference, Gilbert answers questions from the press. At that moment, Alice suddenly speaks up to oppose him. She questions why the new nuclear power plant uses outdated technology. Gilbert immediately defends and denies it. He avoids addressing the safety issues of the nuclear power plant. Alice is an environmental activist. She hopes Gilbert will take responsibility to protect our Earth. Due to her persistence, security wants to throw her out. Alice's friend takes the opportunity to pressure him, causing a scandal at the press conference. When she is detained at the police station, her friend plans to launch an anti-nuclear protest online. Alice hesitates about this. At that moment, her father arrives to pick her up. But the two friends didn't expect that Alice's father is actually Gilbert. It turns out that father and daughter are still bitter enemies. On the way home, Alice criticizes her father's nuclear power plant once again. Gilbert doesn't want to explain much. But when she mentions her mother, he avoids the topic. Frustrated, Alice storms off in anger. Her friend calls, hoping Alice will go all in. They believe Gilbert and the nuclear power plant are involved in a shady deal. If Alice can find information about that deal, it would be a huge political scandal. What Alice needs to do now is get proof of their insider dealings. Otherwise, her friend will expose their relationship. With no other option, Alice reluctantly agrees. That night, Alice prepares for a covert operation. But to her surprise, Raph acts first. Both are startled because they didn't know the other was an AI. Alice grabs a bottle of wine and knocks him out cold. Hearing the noise, Gilbert rushes downstairs. Alice explains to her father that the man came to steal his computer. Gilbert laughs awkwardly, thinking that his daughter came to steal the computer too. He questions Alice, wondering if they are accomplices. Just as Alice tries to explain, the time cops suddenly appear. Father and daughter freeze in place. In this urgent moment, Raph has to act. Only by killing Gilbert can the construction of the nuclear power plant be fully stopped. The cops try to shoot Raph, but he's knocked over by Alice. As a result, they shoot Robert in the leg. The future cops decide to enter the house. At the critical moment, Raph tries to touch Gilbert's leg, before activating the teleport and escaping. Thus, father and daughter are transported to the future together. The sight before Alice is overwhelming. She never expected the once prosperous world to now be a wasteland. Back at the Time Management Bureau, the failure of the mission causes the director to lose his temper. As a result, the director assigns Louise to take over as team leader. Boris, although displeased, has no choice but to obey. When Alice wakes up, father and son have been isolated separately. Through a small hole in the wall, Gilbert thinks they've been kidnapped by criminals, and are now in a desolate place. At that moment, Michelle brings food, and the plate only has a few cookies. This shows that material in the future world is extremely scarce. Michelle says that this is the future world. Alice is hesitant to agree and thinks it's a prison holding them. Michelle explains that this is his bedroom. If they want to leave, they can ask the boss here. After father and son meet Raph, he doesn't stop them from leaving and even reminds them of the escape route. When Robert opens the door, it's full of zombies outside. Father and son panic and rush back inside the house. Soon after, the doctor explains the current situation to them. The people outside are all zombies. And the cause of all this is the radiation from the nuclear power plant explosion years ago. The radiation mutated these people, and they blame him for it. Gilbert feels this is ridiculous. After all, earthquakes were also one of the causes of the nuclear disaster. Moreover, the construction of the nuclear power plant followed strict safety standards. Raph immediately retorts, "If it was safe, the world wouldn't be like this now." Gilbert sneers, thinking Raph is just a clown who likes to act. "So this is what you call the future? Then prove it." Facing Gilbert's skepticism, they can only use reality to erase his doubts. The doctor grabs a machine gun and clears the zombies at the door. Then he leads the two to the ruins in the city. As far as the eye can see, it's all destruction and death. Occasionally, zombies wander the streets. Everywhere is filled with devastation. Soon, Raph takes them to a location. Gilbert is stunned by the sight before him. That explosion cloud from years ago circles the Earth every 70 years. Where it passes, half of the population dies. After many cycles, Earth has become what it is now. And this time, no one can escape the disaster. The truth stands before Gilbert, and he cannot refute it. Raph pulls out a gun and aims at Gilbert. This would solve all the problems. Alice steps forward to stop him, hoping there's another way to save them. Before Raph acts, Gilbert is so scared that he faints. Michel can't bear to watch any longer, so he comes up with a plan. They can change the timeline inside the Time Management Bureau without drawing attention. If Gilbert comes to his senses, the time cops won't be able to stop him from changing his decision. At Alice's pleading, Raph softens and agrees. The problem now is how they should avoid the time cops. Little did they know, the time cops had already tracked them to their timeline. Through the threat of death, they managed to get Raph's hideout location. On the way back, the two finally reached an agreement. They all had a common goal, save Earth. However, Raph still hasn't come up with a plan. Alice reveals that her mother passed away during childbirth. The only person who could change her father's mind was her mother. Alice thinks about bringing her mother back. But Raph firmly rejects the idea. If they stop Alice's birth to save her mother, it would create a paradox. For Raph to change his perception, Raph takes them to a refugee camp. At first, Alice thinks this will be a tragic scene. But on the contrary, everyone is optimistic and happy. The father and son conduct random interviews. People are either crazy or very open and joyful. There's no sense of tragedy or sorrow. Gilbert places his hope in the time cops. He feels that perhaps the time cops will save them. Gilbert doesn't care about what's happening, he only cares about his daughter. Alice looks at him in surprise. She knows her father only cares about his future self and his wealth. The lives of innocent people mean nothing to him. Alice cuts ties with her father and accuses him of causing the explosion cloud to make everyone aware. She thought people would be angry. But instead, Gilbert invites everyone for drinks to ease the anger. It seems the crowd isn't worried about their lives. Enjoying life right now is what matters. Gilbert pulls his daughter away from the scene. At this moment, the patrol cops have found the base. The doctor managed to spot them through the surveillance cameras. The doctor activates the self-destruct system before the patrol officers can enter. The cops realize something's wrong and quickly take evasive action. Shockwaves quickly rush toward them. Michel tries to teleport to escape but grabs the wrong tool. On the other side, Gilbert leads Alice to the main street. The two unexpectedly meet a little boy. Gilbert tries to ask about the situation, but the boy runs off in fear without answering. Father and daughter slowly turn around to find zombies right behind them. They run but accidentally crash into an alley. In this dangerous moment, Raph arrives just in time to help. Raph plans to teleport everyone away from the scene. But at the crucial moment, the transmission device runs out of battery because Raph has used it too much today. The aggressive zombies slowly close in. Suddenly, a spear flies in and takes down one zombie. It turns out the boy brought the savior. With the children's taunts, the zombies are successfully led away. Everyone escapes a disaster. The time cops then begin searching the area. Louise discovers a map. It seems this is really Raph's true home, along with the others. After arriving at the camp, father and son witness another scene. All the children here are orphans. Under Raph's care, they live actively and optimistically. While everyone is gathered for dinner, Raph suddenly receives a signal. The next moment, the doctor is teleported here. Soon after, the time cops also arrive. Under Raph's coordination, the children launch a counterattack. Facing the children's stone-throwing formation, the time cops struggle to defend themselves, so they decide to throw grenades. In this critical situation, the doctor throws himself onto the grenade. A loud explosion rings out. To their surprise, he turns out to be a robot. Raph can't accept the truth, so he points his gun at Gilbert. But in front of the children, Raph chooses to back down. Then they are all captured by the cops. Father and son are taken back to the Time Management Bureau. The director declares that Raph is just a madman who believes he's saving the world. But Alice doesn't believe the lies of the enemy. And she says she will convince her father to stop the completion of the nuclear power plant. The director called her from the future to make Alice abandon this plan. Alice is shocked. She thought she was just a product of technology. But it turns out her future self has revealed all her secrets. Alice starts to believe, but the other person keeps urging her to give up. They say her father won't live much longer because of radiation. They hope Alice will take the opportunity to say a proper goodbye to him while he's still alive. These words leave Alice confused. Has everything she believed in been wrong? After returning to her world, Alice doesn't steal her father's computer. It seems like nothing will change. Meanwhile, Raph and the others are brought before the director. They will face the time prison, a dark cell with no time. However, just as Gilbert goes to sign the contract, the driver's words remind him of his wife. To create a change, Gilbert returns home. He knows his wife will never agree to this. Right after Gilbert decides to change, the Time Management Bureau is thrown into chaos. When the director realizes the problem, he immediately sends subordinates to deal with it. They must ensure Gilbert attends the meeting on time. If not, they will use his daughter as a hostage. Just as the two break through the mental barrier, the time cops arrive and take Gilbert away. It seems everything will follow history. Louise leads Raph to the prison. Unexpectedly, she betrays them as her conscience awakens. Not only does she free Raph and Michelle, but she also provides enough weapons. However, Michelle, just as he moves to Alice's side, is knocked out. Louise plans a surprise attack on the director, but the director had already prepared. In the dark, the director attacks Louise. After a fierce struggle between the two, Louise, with less experience, loses. On the other side, Raph blocks Gilbert's car. As Boris gets out to check, Raph transports him to a further past. The two end up in a battlefield. Boris chases them, wanting to get him back, but the weapon is lost. Raph's luck isn't good either. The teleportation device breaks. With no other choice, he can only fight. The two charge at each other. It's clear Raph isn't a match for Boris. Just as they're about to continue, a bomber suddenly flies overhead. The two disappear in the explosion's dust. Meanwhile, Michelle, after being knocked out, suddenly wakes up. Before being knocked out again, he quickly presses the teleport button. As a result, after a teleportation mishap, he falls straight into a swimming pool. Boris steps forward, preparing to strike. At the crucial moment, he teleports behind him. While the two are fighting, Alice grabs a bottle of wine and throws it at them. The bottle hits Boris on the head, knocking him out. Alice quickly calls her father. She didn't expect the director to arrive before her. And Raph is also captured. At this moment, the explosion cloud is heading toward the city's ruins. The doctor uses the time to create the time travel machine. With time running out, the doctor can't control his emotions. As the explosion cloud passes, the bartender opens the door and disappears on the spot. The doctor activates the time travel machine, but it doesn't work. When everyone feels hopeless, Alice suddenly comes up with an idea. Under the director's pressure, Gilbert prepares to sign the contract. Unexpectedly, time in the past suddenly changes. Alice doesn't hesitate to sacrifice herself to change the future. This time, she asks the doctor to save her mother instead of saving herself. Thus, the present and future undergo huge changes. The Time Management Bureau and Raph also disappear. After Alice dies, Gilbert's life changes. He and his wife have a happy family. The signed contract is now about developing renewable energy, not the nuclear power plant. The unimaginable thing is that after Alice changes the past, the future truly changes because of her. But at the same time, a world that violates the parallel existence principle is formed. The explosion cloud seems to disappear overnight, and Alice lives happily in the future world. That's the end of the movie. Remember to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, so you don't miss the latest movies.